The chaos never stops in college football on the Week 7 edition of the AP poll, reflecting that with several changes at the top of the poll, starting with the Dogs reclaiming that #1 spot. A close game late against Auburn, turning into a 42-10 win. Ohio State at #2 after a 6-touchdown day from C.J. Stroud. Alabama down to #3 after surviving a scare from Texas A&M. Clemson at 4, Michigan at 5, and here's where it gets interesting. Tennessee at #6, its highest ranking since 2005. The biggest movers beyond that, UCLA jumped 7 spots to #11. TCU up 4 to #14 after giving Kansas its first loss of the season. Mississippi State up 7 spots to #16 after beating Arkansas. Utah falls 9 spots with a loss to UCLA. Kentucky down 9 spots after a loss to South Carolina. And some new additions to the poll: Texas, Illinois, and James Madison. Congrats to the Dukes at 25, undefeated in their first season as an FBS team. And some dropouts this week: Washington, LSU, and BYU. Maybe some of those rankings are right, maybe some of them are wrong, but Brad Crawford is here to help us get all our feelings out. So Brad, let's start at the top of the poll. A lot of shifting there in the top 3. Georgia taking back that #1 spot from Alabama. Is it well deserved?
Yeah, I think AP voters saw chinks in Alabama's armor Saturday night against A&M. You can't squeak by as a 24-point home favorite and not expect to drop a few spots in a national poll. A&M came in limping too, I might add. So the Tide were able to overcome 4 turnovers, several defensive breakdowns in the secondary. But I think you'll see a different team next week at Tennessee with Bryce Young back at quarterback, a team that I think will be out to prove a point in Knoxville. And if voters were so quick to rearrange that top 3, I think I may have had Ohio State at #1, Georgia at #2, and Bama in that 3 hole. I just think the Buckeyes right now are playing on a different level, in a different tier offensively, and will not be tested until November.
So Texas re-enters the poll at #22 after sending Oklahoma into existential crisis in the Red River shutout. Brad, it's the question that every college football fan asks every week for eternity: is Texas back?
I think right now Texas is back. Watching Quinn Ewers dissect Oklahoma at every level really made me think, where would this team be had he played the final 3 quarters against Alabama a few weeks ago and not missed that Texas Tech game? Texas would be potentially 6-0 right now and ranked inside the top 5. He's the difference maker Steve Sarkisian expected him to be when he transferred, and gets the football to that second level with ease. No one in the Big 12 wants to play Texas right now. So I'd put the Horns right up there with Oklahoma State for top billing in the conference. And I think those 2 teams will ultimately meet twice this season, the second time being for a Big 12 championship.
All right, let's talk about Tennessee. The Vols went into Death Valley as 3-point favorites. They came out with a 40-13 win. Their strength of schedule, arguably one of the best among the top teams in this poll, with 3 wins versus ranked teams, 2 wins on the road. Your thoughts at the Vols at #6?
Yeah, I thought Tennessee would go into Tiger Stadium and win, but I didn't see the Volunteers emptying some of the seats, in that venue by halftime. You have to give Josh Heupel and his staff a lot of credit for being prepared to execute, coming out of that open week, facing a lot of pressure with that Alabama game looming. You always kind of wondered if Tennessee would get caught looking ahead, with the Crimson Tide coming up next. But I thought AP voters came through, slotting Tennessee at #6, right behind Michigan and Clemson. And honestly, I think the Vols right now could beat both of those teams on a neutral field based on the way Hendon Hooker and that wide receiver core is playing.
All right, UCLA heads into a well-deserved bye week after starting the season 6-0. Your thoughts on Chip Kelly's program sitting at #11?
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit that UCLA's home game with Utah on Saturday was a barometer test for me, to see if the Bruins were legit, unbeaten, top 20 type team. I expected the Utes to go into LA and win, but Dorian Thompson-Robinson had other plans. 5 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns through the air, 1 on the ground. Look, right now, USC, UCLA, and Oregon are the 3 best teams out west at midseason, and it's not particularly close. So I'm excited to see how the Pac-12 shakes out over the next months and change, and to see if Chip Kelly's UCLA Bruins can get to the Pac-12 championship game and really highlight, this 5th season of his in LA.
All right, how about your underrated team this week?
Yeah, right now my most underrated team is Mississippi State. Bulldogs are playing lights out since that loss to LSU. If you recall in that game, the Bulldogs had the lead in the second half before running out of gas at the line of scrimmage, losing at Tiger Stadium. So we're talking about a team right now that could easily be unbeaten through 6 weeks and ranked inside the top 10 had they not lost that game to LSU. So Will Rogers has already managed 22 touchdown passes in 6 games. Mississippi State has a starting tailback averaging 6 yards a carry and 2 wideouts right now who are capable of 1,000-yard seasons. So right now in year 3 under Mike Leach, Mississippi State has this thing rolling, and I think the Bulldogs could definitely challenge Alabama and Ole Miss at the top of the SEC West.
All right, as soon as I saw this poll come out, I knew who your overrated team was going to be based on what you said last week. So tell me, for the second time in a row, why is Kentucky overrated?
Yeah, you guessed it, Grace. Second week in a row, Wildcats are my most overrated team. Look, I mean, they've earned this label the last 2 weeks, losing to Ole Miss, a really ugly game. Will Levis fumbling twice in the last couple of minutes. And then Saturday night, laying an egg against South Carolina at home. So show me the quality wins right now for Kentucky. They beat Florida on the road, and that's really it. There's major issues up front. And without Will Levis, the starting quarterback, it's clear this offense has no sense of direction under its first-year OC. So Levis is expected back next week for Mississippi State. I don't think it matters, though. Kentucky will lose its 3rd straight game next week and finally fall out of the top 25.
All right, I can't help but think that this is the calm before the storm because week 7 brings us 2 games between top 10 ranked teams, 6 games total between ranked teams. So it's going to get crazy. It's going to be a fun time. All right, thanks, Brad, for your time as always. And for all your college football coverage, stay with us at 247sports.com.